What's up? Welcome back. Today we're going to learn the easiest way to get sharp photos every time. If it's your first time here, my name's Lewis, also known as MrCameraJunkie. I'm a photographer based out of Hollywood, Florida. And today we're going to break down shutter priority. I'm an avid believer of getting it right in camera and finessing it in post. Because one thing that you can never fix in post is a photo that is out of focus. Once again, we'll be using my Sony A6100 with the 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens. We mostly determine the quality of an image by its sharpness. And the easiest way to get sharp photos is by switching your camera to shutter priority. This is usually marked on your camera with the letter S or TV depending on your camera's brand. Shutter priority mode is similar to auto mode. The main difference is that it allows you to control the shutter speed, while the camera handles ISO, aperture, and all the rest. The shutter speed on a camera is measured in a fraction of 1 second in time. This means the higher the shutter value, the faster the shutter will be moving across the sensor. Now, before we had all the different types of lens stabilization and in-body image stabilization found in the latest tech that allow us to handhold cameras at 1/15th of a second and still get sharp photos. The way photographers would get sharp photos back in the day is by controlling their shutter speed and using the reciprocal rule, which is not a rule, more like a guideline. It states that in photography, a photographer's shutter speed should never be slower than the focal length of the lens. Meaning, if you're using a 50mm lens, then your shutter speed should never be slower than 1/50th of a second. I suggest doubling the focal length to make sure that you do not get any shake or blurriness in your photos, especially when using crop sensor cameras. That's because a 50mm lens acts like a 75mm lens on APS-C cameras. So using the guideline, 1/80th of a second or 1/100th of a second is appropriate for that focal length. The reason why it's just a guideline, it's because it really all depends on what you're photographing. For example, if you're shooting a sports event, you're going to need to crank up the shutter speed to make sure that your subject is nice and sharp without any signs of motion blur or shakiness. Right now you might be thinking, okay, the faster my shutter speed, the sharper my images will be. This is where it gets tricky. This is because your shutter speed is a fraction of 1 second. Meaning, if you crank up your shutter speed to 1/4000th of a second, that is not enough time for your shutter to be open to resolve a clean, sharp image. The fact that these amazing machines have the ability to capture and resolve an image at 1/4000th of a second or even 1/8000th of a second is Remember this, bright pixels are sharp pixels. And when your shutter speed is too fast, your camera will not have enough light hitting the sensor. Thus, the camera has to compensate by increasing the ISO and adding digital noise, or underexposing an image. There's a balance to great photography. Come on light. This is why using the reciprocal guide is a good place to start. The reciprocal guide is the reason why lenses with very low available apertures are referred to as being fast. The lower the aperture, the faster the lens. The reason being, when you have a lot of light flooding the sensor, you will need to increase the shutter speed to expose the image correctly. Fast lenses allow you to increase the shutter speed without sacrificing high ISO, resulting in clean, sharp images even in low light situations. Glass before ass. Another way to ensure sharp, crisp images is by hitting the thumbs up button on this video. This way it gets saved to your liked videos tab so that you can always find it and reference back to something I said. Unagi. I also cover blurry backgrounds and aperture priority in my previous video, which you can click here. I will also leave a link down below. And if you're still here hanging out with me, first I want to thank you. You are the reason why I make these videos. To give back to a community that has taught me so much. And if you like the way that I break down complex photography subjects, I would ask you to consider subscribing. And if you are subscribed, make sure to hit the bell so that you're notified of my next video. Thanks for buying a Camera Junkie t-shirt, link in the description. Thanks for watching, like the video if you like it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for buying a glass-free, and if you are subscribed, I would ask you to